talk about fabric. Hi everybody! So I have just returned from a day out in London where I went and purchased my fabric for the Hollyburn skirt. And so as a kind of pre-sew-along video, I thought it would be a good idea to talk about fabric and fabric choices. In terms of recommended fabrics, Sewaholic Patterns has done a really nice little selection of fabrics that you might want to use. So I'm just going to read you out the recommended fabrics from the back of the pattern. Light or medium weight woven fabric, such as cotton, poplin and lawn, linen, lightweight denim or suiting fabrics. Not recommended for plaids, stripes or one-way designs. Basically, if you look at the design of the skirt, it's a pretty free flowing skirt, like I said, fitted on the waist, but with a lot of movement and with a flare to it, which basically gets more and more pronounced depending on the length of the skirt. So the shorter the skirt, the more flared the project. You're wanting a fabric for this kind of a garment that has a certain amount of drape in it. And what that means is that when you are holding fabric in your hands, if it has drape, it will naturally flow across your hands, so it will have a really nice movement to it. If it doesn't have much drape, it'll tend to kind of sit rigid on your hand or not kind of flow as much. So when you're picking fabric, you're going to want something that has a real nice flow and drape to it. In terms of what fabric that would be appropriate for this pattern, I think that the pattern has really laid out a nice variety of things that you might want to use. If you are new to sewing, the first recommendations, so cotton, poplin and lawn, would be fantastic things to start off with. So any kind of cotton fabric that has a certain amount of drape to it is going to be incredibly forgiving. It's easy to cut, it's easy to sew. It's a really nice fabric for a start off kind of sewing project. So that's what I'd recommend probably if you're new to this kind of project and you haven't done much sewing before. Likewise, something like a suiting fabric, depending on how much it frays and how slippery it is, so the fabric content. If it has a very high polyester content, sometimes suiting fabric can become very slippy to the touch, which means it's considerably more difficult to cut. So just bear that in mind when you're buying your fabrics, particularly if you're starting kind of sewing and this is one of your first big projects. Get something that's going to make your job easier. For you more advanced sewers out there, I'm pretty sure that you could make this skirt in almost any kind of fabric that has drape. So you could choose something a lot lighter for summer, if that's something that you feel confident working with. Pretty much the opportunities are endless. It's a great pattern, really nice and simple, and it's giving you a really nice opportunity to show off some fantastic prints due to the simplicity of the shape. I think the lovely thing about this pattern is that you could make this kind of a skirt for any time of year. So you may want to go for a linen or a cotton if it's for summer, so if you're going to be wearing it in the heat. But if you're thinking of it maybe more of an autumn or winter skirt, you could use a lightweight wool or perhaps a lightweight corduroy, something like that. But just make sure that it has a lot of drape, like I said, a lot of movement. Now I did want to quickly talk about the fact that this pattern says not recommended for plaid, stripes or one-way designs. I would say, again, if you're a beginner, using a check fabric like a plaid or very graphic stripes is not necessarily going to be your friend, because you get into the realm of pattern matching, which is a whole other ball game. It's really fun, I enjoy it, but it's very challenging. So again, that may not be something that you want to think about doing if you are new to this kind of thing. However, if you're more confident, I don't see any reason why this pattern wouldn't be suitable for stripes or plaids if you want to put the time in to do the matching. And from what I can gather from reading a couple of interviews with the designer of this pattern, that was really the reason why she dissuaded people from using plaids and stripes, was just that this is technically a beginner's pattern aimed at people who are starting out, and that is a really challenging thing to do, pattern matching. So I hope that that little talk about what kind of fabrics would be suitable is helpful. I would recommend, if possible, actually getting out into the world and feeling your fabric before you purchase it. I really enjoy going fabric shopping. I appreciate sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do if you do not have a lot of fabric stores that are well stocked, that are close to you. But if you do have the opportunity to do that, I would really recommend it, because nothing beats being able to actually feel a fabric in your hands and kind of guess how it will behave. So like I was talking about, slippery fabrics may be a no-no for people who are starting out, and also getting an idea of that drape and that flow and how that will carry across into a garment. So like I said at the beginning of this video, I was out in London today and I visited Goldhawk Road, which is one of my favourite places in London to go fabric shopping. So I'm going to show you some of the fabric that I bought today. I am so excited about this fabric, you guys. It's absolutely beautiful and it's exactly what I wanted. I am, for the sew along, going to be making two versions of the Hollyburn skirt. Version B, which is the knee length skirt, and also version C, which is the above the knee version skirt. I'm making two versions because I thought it would be more interesting for you guys to see a really wide variety of things like seam finishes, zip finishes, hem finishes, and by making two different projects I can pretty much do the complete opposite on both of them, so I get to show you a nice variety of different techniques. Plus, having two new skirts in my wardrobe is never going to be a bad thing, is it? But I'm going for quite different fabrics with each version of the skirt. So I'm going to be starting off showing my fabric that I bought for version B. So this fabric I found in a store called U Textiles on Goldhawk Road. I actually bought the fabric from my bridesmaids' dresses from this shop, and they tend to have really, really good deals. I think you'll agree with me, it's pretty special. So this is the fabric that I've chosen. It's covered in this dusky pink and green rose design, and I am completely and utterly in love with it. It is definitely some kind of viscose cotton blend. There's a lot of man-made fibre in this. It does have a little bit of a gleam to it, and as you can see from the way it's hanging over my hand as I'm holding it, it is incredibly drapey. Drapey fabric. I thought this would be the perfect colour palette for summer, but also something that is still going to be appropriate in autumn, so I can layer it up. And when I saw it, the rose pattern, I'm obsessed with roses. I just thought it's like a Beauty and the Beast kind of skirt, and I loved it. So this will be for version B, which is the knee length skirt. Isn't it glorious? For this version, the knee length version, I am going to be using very subtle thread with it, something that matches really nicely with the fabric. Because it's more lightweight, I'm going to do some really delicate seam finishes. I think I'm going to do a combination of French seams and either just bias bound seams or Hong Kong seams. I'm also going to be showing you how to do a narrow hem on this and possibly a hand-picked zip. I would say, considering how light this is, I may also need to line it. It is a very, very kind of thin drapey fabric, as you can see. Just look at it drape. If I choose to line it, obviously, I will include a tutorial about that too. In terms of fabric for the view C of the pattern that I will be making, which is the above the knee length, getting a little risque, you know, with a shorter skirt, I went down a very, very different path for that fabric choice. Because guys, I went with denim. Oh yes. So this is this beautiful kind of indigo blue denim, which I purchased from a store called A to Z Fabrics. I thought a little short denim skirt with pockets would be absolutely perfect for the summer. And this colour blue is exactly the colour that I wanted. It's not too washed out, but it's not too dark. It's this really, really rich indigo, almost between indigo and royal blue, I would say, and I just think it is glorious. In terms of seam finishes and that type of thing, I'm going to do things a little differently for this. I'm going to be doing mostly serged seams on this, but the one detail that I am excited to add to this is contrasting top stitching. The type of top stitching that you get on a pair of jeans, I thought would be particularly cute on a denim skirt. It is a very different fabric from the floral that I picked up, but you can see from me just holding it, it's still got a really nice drape to it. It is quite a lightweight denim, so you can see how it falls. It's got more stiffness, much more stiffness than the fabric that I'm using for my version B, but because it still has that fluidity, it's going to be really fun. And I think it will be incredibly cute with the shorter version because of how flared it is. It will make it slightly more sticky outy. That's a technical term. One thing you should bear in mind if you are thinking about buying denim is that a lot of denim out there has a significant amount of stretch in the fabric. A lot of denims are used for jeans and tight fitting outfits, and so they have to have a certain amount of elastane in them so that they can give you that, you know, nice little peachy bum and that type of thing when you're wearing it. So if you're looking for denim for this particular pattern, I would go for something that has as little stretch in it as you can find. You don't want to be making something that's tightly fitted on the waist and after a couple of wears and washes for it to completely have stretched out and be the wrong size for you. So yeah guys, got my two fabric choices. Couldn't be more different than each other, completely different materials to work with, different colour schemes, but both I think going to really work with a lot of things that I currently have in my wardrobe. So I'm very excited about both of these. The other thing that you will need to do once you have your fabric purchased is before we do anything sewing wise on these fabrics, you must pre-wash them. And that is to combat things like shrinkage. So for example, if you cut out something that fits you perfectly and then you spend hours sewing it and it's utterly beautiful and you're so proud, and then you throw it in the washing machine, you bring it out and it comes out like Barbie doll clothes because the fabric itself has not been in contact with water before that. It is utterly heart-wrenching, and ask me how I know about that. Wash your fabric in the way that you intend to wash the garment when you've been using it. You may be someone who just wants to hand wash your handmade garments, and that's great, but just give it a gentle hand wash. You may be someone who just wants to throw it in the washing machine and go because you want convenience. Do that with your fabric. Obviously, your washing of your fabric is going to be dependent on the fabric that you have. So for example, I would not use a high temperature with this denim because denim by its nature will shrink if it gets too hot. And the same goes for more natural fibers like anything that's wool based. So if you have a wool suiting, that's more likely to shrink in hot water. As a standard for all of my handmade garments, some of them are entirely hand wash only, but the majority of my handmade garments I will wash in a gentle cycle in the washing machine and then allow them to dry naturally. So I very rarely put them in the tumble dryer. If you're at all worried that you'll purchase a lot of yardage of fabric and you may ruin it by washing it, I would always recommend trying a swatch. So in the same way that we do swatching for knitting, when we'll knit up our square and then we'll block it and dry it and then see what size it is, do the same with your fabric. Cut out a square that is a certain size that you know exactly what the size is. So for example, maybe 3 inches by 3 inches or 4 inches by 4 inches. Measure it exactly as it is, wash it and see how much it shrinks. If it's very minimal, then feel free to treat your fabric, your whole fabric in the same way. If it looks like it has shrunk considerably, you may want to think of a different way of washing that fabric, or perhaps hand washing if it has reacted incredibly badly to the way that you've washed it. So guys, I think that just about covers it in terms of everything that I have to say about fabric choices. Please feel free to comment below if you have any questions at all, or comment in the Ravelry group, the Inside Number 23 Ravelry group, the Hollyburn Sewalong thread, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you're super excited about starting the Hollyburn Sewalong in August, and start sharing your fabric choices. I cannot wait to see what you have chosen for your projects. I will see you all soon, guys. Bye!